Hello and welcome to the Carbitrage Podcast, episode 217. I'm Eric Berger, joined as always by my co-host Ryan Sinitsky. Hello,
hey,
sir.
That's me. I finished my beer and
You're out? At least you have water.
I guess.
I mean, beer is sort of made of water, but just some fermented other stuff.
It's fermented water.
You have cheese curds.
We do? Oh no, my beer and everything is blowing away.
Everything's terrible. I'm still drinking a Dasani because I'm still on the month of dryness. However, before we start in on topics, I want to quickly touch on our Patreon page, patreon.com/Carbitrage. On this customized website, you will find 2 open-ended levels of support for content consumers like you to support content producers like us. Head on over to patreon.com/Carbitrage to pick up your koozie, get added to our Discord, and start submitting topics.
I have a new beer.
Scott was very kindly, as one of our Patreon patrons,
Yes.
able to get you another beer. So, anyway,
Quite literally, buy me a beer. Thank you, Scott. You're a hero.
you're a gentleman and a scholar. Anyway,
That's what I needed.
first topic, I want to briefly go back to last year when we did our first Auto Show Invitational podcast at the convention center.
Yes.
From Truck Country. Where we were put amongst a bunch of lifted trucks and CUVs that we're not actually a huge fan of.
They never listened to this podcast prior to putting us there. It was very, very clear. That or they don't like trucks either.
It could be that. Maybe they wanted us to be there to try to take them down a peg.
Urge them along. Yeah.
Anyway, I mainly wanted to get back to that because remember we were covering the Geneva Auto Show at the time. This was kind of right on the heels of the pandemic starting, and we saw tons of images from Geneva of all these half-built manufacturer displays, no vehicles, shipping containers outside, not opened yet, no lights.
They literally quit it halfway through. Yeah.
It was like a dystopian future, and I just kind of wanted to get your view of what has, May of 2020 to May of 2021 been like in the car show culture, not just the Minneapolis Auto Show, but global.
It was a barren wasteland with these attempts at car shows. They're I want to say.
I think you got 7 likes in there so far.
I'm just trying to think of the words I want to use for this, but there were these gasps for air, trying to attempt and go. No, we're going to have a car show. It's no, you're not.
We're gonna be safe. We're gonna do it right.
We're gonna do this right. It's you're not.
No turnout.
Yeah. Or it's no turnout, it doesn't happen, or it's a super spreader. That's what it was.
So after the March of 2020 show, we were the last weekend of the auto show last year.
It actually ended the day after us. Drive Cartel got canceled.
What was the last car show you went to in the spring of 2020? Did you go to anything?
No,
I
didn't go to anything after that.
I kind of think I didn't either because I think
what I did was a bunch of my friends, not a bunch, a handful, 6 to 12.
It sounds like a toddler clothing month.
Yeah. It was a handful of my friends get together at the Wendy's in Bloomington, and we just call it the Stinky Nugget Mate because it's the best way to describe our cars because you get the nuggets and our cars are all just kind of stinky. Well, you don't know what they are. They aren't good cars. They aren't bad cars. They're very Carbitrage-y cars where it's Gunch, the guy that puts it all together, he has a 65 Mercury, not a Marauder, but it's just a normal Mercury Montclair, I think is what it is. A very cool car, but it's one of those cars where it's a year off from being good for Back to the 50s, and it's totally not a muscle car. It's just a forgotten car. Yeah, it's literally a 65.
It's just a giant.
It's a year off from greatness, and it's the wrong trim level, but it's got the right engine. So it's it's what we like, where it's just interesting cars that are, and all of my friends in that friend group do that. So Josh and Anna have their S10 with 700 billion horsepower.
Doesn't Josh also have an El Camino now?
Yeah,
or
he's
something
El
like
Camino.
That?
He's putting
I think it's kind of cool.
Will be the second one of my friends who I beat their car when it was really slow in a street race, and is now much faster than I will ever be.
I remember the S10 from 10 years ago, and that was not a fast car, and now it's got welds on it and slicks, and it's tubbed,
fast,
and
No, Jack has a 1.8T swapped Mark 1 Jetta Coupe.
That's kind of cool.
There's another fellow that comes up from South Dakota, and he has a Mercedes V12 swapped Grand National.
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah, the white one.
Doesn't he have carbs on that thing?
It's not Grand National. I'm sorry. It's a Buick.
It's a T-type. It's a Regal T-type, I think. Yeah.
It's just not black. Yeah.
Wow.
But
How dare you bring it up?
I mean, it's just the Grand National is a color code, pretty much. And like, if you had GNX, you get an intercooler. Well, the GNX is the one you want. The normal Grand Nationals are not that much different than a T-Type. But
they didn't need the turbo rocket fuel like the old 65
true, yeah.
Oldsmobile.
But yeah, this one is now a V12 out of a Mercedes like S600 with like twin turbos on it. It's really rad.
Turbo.
It's really rad. So
it's a cool car. I couldn't believe the first time I saw that on like Japlopnik that it was a local car.
yeah, and so
It's very well built.
yeah, his name is Greg, and yeah, so we have a lot of my friends just like come by. And Miguel brings by his like Toyota Previa. They turn into a pickup and like makes it to a drift truck. And so like my friends, like it was one of those things where it was entirely just because of the quality of my friend group's like weird builds. But I had a really good 2020 as far as car shows go because I didn't go to car shows. I didn't have a bunch of people bothering me, asking me questions I didn't want to answer. And then when I finally went to a real car show, when I went to Cars and Crafts,
yeah, they renamed it. We got to talk to them about it.
Yeah, now it's pluralized again. They keep like going back and forth if it's going to be plural or not.
I see Scott looking at the speaker. It will feedback if I turn it up anymore.
Yeah, this is as loud as it gets. But when I went to Cars and Crafts, I didn't bring my camera because it was kind of nice going to a car show and not being recognized. Like, that was really, really nice, just going to a car show and being a person.
So how many people came to the Stinky Nugget meets?
I think the most I've ever seen is like 20 people.
Okay. That's nice that it was a small caliber event.
Yeah, it was just like buddies that we know. We don't tell people. We have like a group chat, and we're like, hey, we're going to go to Wendy's. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll see you there. So
cool. It's a little bit unfortunate, but I mean, at the same time, it took us way longer than it probably should have even to shut down in the first place. I mean, there probably shouldn't have even been an auto show in 2020.
Yeah, I would not have recommended. I was very, very sketched out going to the auto show last year. But this year, I'm fine. We're outside. It's nice. I've got another beer that was brought to me by patron Scott. Thank you. So I'm happy.
Patreon saint.
Yeah, I got my vaccines.
Me too. I'm glad you got your second stab finally.
It's actually how we're able to broadcast is from my 5G.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's...
The internet was broken here, so
when we said we fixed the internet, we literally just used our vaccines to power this podcast.
It's like those two Wonder Twins swords that merge together and twist together. That's a 5G tower. That's what we're broadcasting.
That's how it works.
All right, fair enough. Well, I unfortunately put two topics in a row for myself, but this one is a Patreon topic, so hopefully you'll chime in with all of
No, I totally will. I saw this. I was going to put something in about, I don't know, slabs or something, because I've been on a big slab kick. But
is that why you're wearing that shirt today?
Yeah, and I bought a shirt from Boys and Slabs.
They used to count my spokes, now they count my inches.
Yeah, and it's not like a car on like 30-inch wheels. It's a car with like some like 16-inch long gorilla arms.
That just strikes me as like the H2OI, where they're starting to take protractors out and measure camber.
Pretty much, it's like that. And so like everybody's like really mad about it, and well, there's definitely like a racial element to that. So actually what happened, we should talk about this, because it's actually a thing that happened, was the Boys and Slabs Galveston Beach party, where they drove there, and then the police, they didn't even get out of their cars, and the police just started arresting people.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was totally ridiculous. It was like, it's mostly an African-American like style, or slabs.
Is there... I assume it's profiling, but is there anything actually illegal about running a giant set of spinners?
What they're doing actually here is they're measuring to see if the spokes on the wheels on this Cadillac are wider than the mirrors on the car. And that's the law in Texas, is your spokes cannot be wider than your mirrors. And so actually a bunch of the guys are like, oh, that's the rule?
Can you run tow mirrors then?
That's exactly what they bought.
Oh,
this is a bunch of dudes now with like 90s Cadillacs with like 20-inch wide wheels that are running tow mirrors. They're getting around the rule.
Scott keeps messing with the speaker. I'm turning it back down.
So, but yeah, so that's where this came from. And then it turns out there was a similar event that happened. It was with a Jeep club, and they all got large tickets and
you
stuff.
don't talk into the top of these, you talk into the face.
So we have this little gremlin that keeps messing with our microphones and stuff.
It's fine, you do need to get closer, but you got to talk toward the front of it where the green light is.
Well, I had it angled towards me,
and then I
had a little gremlin that moved it. So now I just need to move things constantly.
Anyway, while we get onto that.
All right, anyway.
All right, so two strokes. I want to talk briefly about cars that use them. So first thing, what comes to your mind?
Moskvich.
Okay, that's actually not on my list. Although something very similar. I had a Trabant on there.
That's close. That's Russian. It's actually East German.
I was going
but
to
it's
say, yeah,
Soviet.
it was West German or
It's
East German?
it's made by communism.
It is. And then we have
cars
some,
are great.
the Subaru 360, which I had one of.
Not
a great car. The Saab
No,
92.
great car, not communist. Different thing.
Oh. Well, mine was terrible, but it was also like
Yours is
crushed.
horrific, but they are quite good cars. They're really cool. Plus, they also made the Young S and the Young SS, and the Young SS was the first Japanese car to have 100 horsepower per liter.
Yeah, I do remember. We actually covered that, and it has a really cool paint scheme too.
Yeah, it is 36 horsepower on like a 3-inch wide wheel. Like if you ever wanted to make 36 horsepower terrifying, just put it in that.
Well, and it's still making like angry scooter noises at the same time.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like a real car.
No, it sounds
a two-cylinder, 356cc two-stroke engine.
And it was like like objectively quick. That's what it was. Like,
they weigh nothing.
Yeah, they don't weigh anything. So 36 horsepower is like a big deal.
Yeah.
So like back in the 60s when they were doing that, these Subaru 360 Young SSs on a tight mountain road like blow the doors off Alfa Romeos and stuff. And it's like
Alphas probably weren't running at that time.
But I mean, like other cars that they'd be racing against, like Triumphs and stuff like that. And
it's all about power to weight.
Yeah, it literally is. So like I guess like Datsun Fairlady Roadsters were around the same time as the Subaru 360 Young SS. But yeah, it made angry go-kart noises and was like objectively really fast.
Well, I can't even say slow car fast. I mean, that car makes me think of slow car fast just because you look at it and it's this. Technically a four-seater.
It looks like a ladybug. It's called a ladybug. So
if you were relatively healthy, you could pick the front of it up off the ground via the bumper.
Yes, you could.
So
easily.
It's just, I mean, putting that much power in a car that weighs the same as a hefty shopping cart from Costco.
No, it was literally the 1960s Subaru equivalent of doing like a Hellcat.
Oh, okay, yeah, fine.
Yeah, like it's what it was. It was the 1960s Japanese Hellcat, where just like it was terrifying the amount of power it had.
Did the Subaru 360 have the same issue that the Saab 92 did as a two-stroke car, where if you're going down a hill, let's say, and it's not actually injecting oil into the crankcase, it'll seize up the engine on the overrun?
Because the Saab 92 had a freewheeling engine.
Okay.
So it could decouple the engine from the transmission. It's kind of like pushing the clutch.
Oh, so it's like coasting almost.
But it would retain the same RPM without any load.
Okay.
Yeah. Really weird. But
I was going to say, I knew that was an issue with the Saab, but I wasn't sure if other companies had dealt with
just
that or
Saab
how
had that
they...
problem.
Okay.
So Japan actually in the 60s had a ton of two-stroke cars that were like really, really wild. So while Subaru 360 had the Young SS, there was a Daihatsu, which eventually was bought by Toyota.
Okay.
They're kind of like the leaders of K cars. They had the Fellow Max, which is called the Fellow, but then they had Max for maximum power.
Oh my God.
With terrible name.
Was that before the era of decals, or were there decals on the door?
No, there were badges that said that everywhere. There were chrome badges all festooning the car. But yeah, that also had 36 horsepower. It weighed a little bit more, but it was also a 4-cylinder two-stroke.
Oh, nice.
It was really weird.
It probably sounded cool.
It sounded cool as hell. Huh.
Did it have a merged exhaust? Because a lot of what I want to talk about on two-stroke is the reason why they almost all, in any application, sound like a glorified chainsaw is because you have to have a scavenging exhaust resonator.
And yes, they did. They had a scavenging exhaust resonator on it, which is like how it made power. It was hilarious because I like chrome line cylinder bores and dual quad carbs and scavenging exhaust. It was totally bananas, and it was in this like grandma car, and it looked like a normal hatchback. Like they didn't do any body work on it. They just had like they wrote like Max next to the name, and so it looked like a totally normal car. I don't even think they put on like. I think they even had the same wheels and the same like they had no treatment other than the fact that
this thing
Max.
was a factory sleeper.
Absolute sleeper. Like imagine like a 446 pack like Challenger.
Yeah.
But you just had that and like your completely normal
in like the secretary
Dart.
spec,
like in a Dart
body.
sedan. Yeah, it's like a 446 pack in a Dart sedan is how it reacted. But yeah, that also had like 36 horsepower and totally bananas, and it would blow the doors off everything. It was super short wheelbase, rear wheel drive.
I was gonna say, is that rear engined as well?
Front engine.
Nice.
So yeah, it was like extra sketchy.
I like the induction noise of something like that, whereas a 4-cylinder two-stroke, if it was coming towards you and you got the intake honk, it'd probably sound like you're in like an 80s Formula One race.
Yeah. Whereas
like with the 2 power cycles
versus
versus 4. I mean, the perceived engine RPM you get is like a doubling of a 4-stroke.
Yeah, it really is. It's absolutely insane sounding. So I've heard a Fellow Max, but never in person. But they do sound bananas. I will say that the Subaru 360 Young SS, I have heard in person, and that does absolutely sound like the world's angriest light chainsaw. It sounds like a really, like, you know, Ricky Torres's Yamaha Banshee?
I do not.
Oh, he always has all these like super fast RX-7s, and he bought a Yamaha Banshee. He started street racing with that.
Oh my god, isn't that a quad?
Yeah. The UGR Lambo that was in town for a long time, he beat that.
On a quad?
Yes.
I mean, I remember when like the Raptor 660 came out, and we started looking at those. I'm like, oh my god, this thing can do 0 to 60 in like 2.5 seconds.
He said he won't quote me numbers. He'll say it's under 10 seconds and it is replicatable on the street.
How do you launch something like that and keep it on the ground? Does it have wheelie bars?
Yeah, he's got he's got like a 10-foot long wheelie bar with one little shopping cart wheel on the back.
Those don't even have differentials, do they?
It just rips.
Okay.
It's super fast.
I mean, that sounds really sketchy.
It sounds super angry.
Does he take it up to like the Brainerd Wednesday night drags then? Because I mean,
Sometimes.
you can't even use it on the street legally.
No, he has an S10. He just has his buddy help him lift it up, and they throw it off the S10. He takes it on the street, does a pass, has the S10 at the end, puts it back on the S10, and then parks it. Yeah.
So what you're saying is the oil is up to temperature.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. But,
Interesting.
Yeah, so speaking of two-strokes, like, yeah, that's another, like, great two-stroke is, like, small bikes.
I guess.
And stuff like that.
I mean, I keep hearing, like, in the last 25 years, everything's migrating, especially on small engines, but it's because we don't see them in cars in the 80s and 90s. The reasons why they migrated from 2 to 4 isn't because of the engines being bad.
No,
it's mainly because of emissions, right?
Really, really dirty emissions, like super dirty. Well, because
it burns oil by nature.
All the time, at all times, yeah.
So, I mean, that's like having a BMW N20 or an Audi 2.0 TSI, but with none of the upsides to the two-stroke.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, yeah, pretty much. They burn oil. They're really, really, really loud. They drink fuel.
That's true.
Ricky, he goes through one tank of fuel in like probably about an hour on his quad, and that's like between like 3 passes.
And that's a 5-gallon tank, or
it's like a really small tank.
Okay,
I think it's
so
small.
it is smaller.
I think it's a 1 gallon, but like it's also like I don't know how.
Is it still carbureted? I imagine so.
Yeah, it is.
I don't even know if I assume you can fuel inject.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You can fuel inject anything you want. All it is just changing your atomization.
I suppose. But I mean, how a two-stroke, when I think of it, especially in like a really simple single-cylinder engine, is it, you got a hole in the side of your cylinder bore, and the actual act of pulling the piston down draws in the air from the side of the block.
Yes. And
that's bringing in the atomized fuel and oil mixture through the crankcase.
It pulls it through, and then you have a reed valve, which is, or in Subaru's case, it was an entire side valve, but the reed valves just take the compression, and it will eventually just push them open. Yeah. But on the Subaru 360, they had a really weird valve design where the entire cylinder wall, like in the combustion area, so after the piston goes down, would open up into the exhaust path.
That sounds like a lot of reciprocating mass.
Yeah, you would think that, and it's really weird how they did it, but it's like just like a super thin little valve, and since the piston's like usually in the way, it's not actually in the combustion chamber, it's just below it.
Yeah.
So like it doesn't need to have it doesn't need to be super thick. It just needs to be there. But yeah, really, really, really weird.
I'd like to look at that, like the different implementations of especially valves on two-stroke gasoline engines.
I really wish that your 360 had like an engine, and I knew about it like at that point in time.
It did have an engine.
I know. I really wish that we had opened it up because you would have seen the weirdest design you've ever seen. Like chrome line cylinder bores is just like weird to me.
I can't believe you can make compression on chrome. It's super weird.
Yeah, it's really weird how they did it. Like everything they did with that, the whole engine was just beyond weird.
I wouldn't have scrapped it unless it was completely essential to do it at the time.
Yeah, and we didn't know what it was.
Right. No.
We knew it.
After some Googling, I think even you probably told me what it was.
Yeah, and like I found out years later like how cool they are. I'm like, oh man, you did totally do that.
Well, it was really neat because it had rack and pinion steering, and it was like this super teeny little rack. It had a 4-speed manual, and it was a 4-seater that was literally the size of those like add-on child shopping carts you see at Cub Foods.
It was literally that big. Yeah,
it is tiny. But
they surprisingly large amount of interior space though. Yeah. They're not like big. They're not comfortable. Like when you see it, you're like, no way am I fit in this. And you get into it, you're like, okay,
No, but it's like a double Isetta. It's passable.
Yeah, it's about it. It's about double Isetta sized, yeah.
So anyway, I want to talk briefly then about 4-strokes, 3-strokes, and other, but let's start with 4-strokes. So a 2-stroke, you've got induction, and then you've got compression power. That's it.
Yeah.
Those are
it's
your
really
two
weird.
Combined strokes.
Your piston moves up and down, and that's it, and does everything there.
Yeah.
So that's something that gets a lot of people. I never understood that for the longest time until I actually I was actually writing an article about Ricky's Yamaha, and that's when I really began to understand how they work properly.
We probably had to do some research and figure it out.
Yeah, and so once I did figure it out, it can actually sound like, oh, it's actually really cool. I wish more cars had that.
Well, I mean, think even back to the 1930s, we didn't really talk about 2-stroke diesels yet, but Detroit diesel.
Oh yeah, they did have those.
I mean, keep in mind, they started those in the late 20s.
Yeah, Tucker would have been beside himself if we didn't mention the 2-stroke Detroit diesel.
I like the Detroit diesel as much as Tucker does. And EMD, I mean, that's the larger railroad division that became, General Electric. They were running 2-stroke diesels until the early 2000s. And I mean, there's a really good reason why those stayed as long as they did.
I have actually heard a 2-stroke diesel on a train, and it's very cool.
A lot of them are 12 and 16 cylinder, and they sound
rad.
like they're ripping because the doubling factor of a 2-stroke induction cycle. But those actually use valves in the cylinder head. They used a positive displacement Roots blower to shove the air-fuel mixture, actually just air into the combustion chamber. Then they had a direct injector at the top. So right before it was supposed to pre-ignite, they actually shot the fuel in, and then as the piston's coming down, they open the valves, and that combustion pressure vents out the valves.
And pulls it up?
No, as it's doing its power stroke,
Yeah.
it's blowing exhaust out.
It's so weird.
But here's the kicker. As it's doing that, the piston is far enough down where the Roots blower is shoving new air in to evacuate the exhaust from the cylinder.
That's super duper weird.
So 2-stroke diesels, I think, are arguably even more interesting than 2-stroke gas engines.
That's really, really wild.
But the 4-strokes give you way better efficiency. They give you better control over your burn. They give you a lot smoother operation. And they give you the opportunity to have no exhaust back pressure because you don't need scavenging for oiling.
That is true, and the back pressure is something you do have to manage on a 2-stroke.
If you run a 2-stroke with an open exhaust, you will destroy it.
Yes, you will. But whereas a normal car, it doesn't matter. Your oil is from a pump, and
we have a crankcase.
You have a crankcase, yeah.
You got a high pressure oiling system that's handling all that. You don't need to worry about a splashing system picking up oil and throwing it at your connecting rod.
Yeah, so 4-strokes are in pretty much just about everything in the world, and they're much easier to work with. More people understand them a little bit better because it makes more sense. I know it sounds weird saying having your piston go up and down twice sounds weird.
Right.
But when you start thinking about all right, well, the piston comes down, pulls air in. Okay, that makes sense, and it pushes it up. Yeah, and then it goes up to compress it. And that makes sense. And then you're like, okay, now it's a little bit past being at top dead center. The spark ignites.
Yeah.
Pushes it back down, and then it comes back up to push it out the exhaust. That makes sense.
Well, it's a beauty, like you're saying, is because all 4-stroke engines essentially operate in the same principle, whereas a 2-stroke has so many different ways of doing that process.
You can do a 2-stroke in way more.
Way easier to explain a 4-stroke engine to a layperson than a 2-stroke. So that, I think, is why it's not why we see more of them, because it's because of the efficiency and the cleanliness. And there's even multiple different versions of the 4-stroke. People have adapted it over the years to do the Miller cycle.
I think we should also talk about the fact that it's much easier to blow up a 2-stroke just by operating it than it is to blow up a 4-stroke by operating it. Blowing up a 4-stroke, you really have to try. Whereas blowing up a 2-stroke is just I modified it the wrong way. I'm sorry.
Right. I put this pipe on it. Well, you can't do that.
Or
I jetted the carbon properly. I used the wrong oil.
Yeah, I forgot to check the oil once and blew up.
Well, you forgot to mix it? Yeah. Does this gas can have premix oil? I think so. Oh, I guess it didn't. No more engine. But I think the lightweight, simplistic nature is huge for 2-strokes, and I can see why they're still kind of hanging on in the last bastions of lawnmowers, chainsaws, and weed whackers, just because of that lightweight nature and how cheap they are to manufacture.
You can still make a 4-stroke engine lightweight and good. It's just much more difficult.
It's a lot more expensive.
So when Subaru 360 and Daihatsu were making the Velomax,
which again is a great name.
Yeah, that Mazda at the same time was coming around, and they actually had the first 4-stroke internal combustion engine ever made in Japan, and with the Mazda R360, which is the little 3-seater rear engine V-twin 4-stroke.
Have I seen this?
Maybe they.
Said it's called an R360.
Yeah, R360. They're possibly the cutest car that's ever been made.
I don't know. I've seen that prototype electric Isetta thing.
Oh no, this one just knocks its socks off.
I'm not even gonna try because my iPad's.
I'm gonna show it to you just so you can see it here. But it is really one of the cutest cars in the world, and also had a racing pedigree.
And that was a 4-stroke.
Yeah, it's a 4-stroke.
That thing has a lot of 360 going for it. I like it.
It's really, really, really cute.
Got,
yeah, it's 360 cc. So.
What was that? Ford Anglia. It's got like an Anglia rear glass.
Yeah, it kind of like that. Yeah, but it had, let's see here. This one only had 16 horsepower and 16 pound-feet of torque.
That's all you need.
But you also have to think that the Super Young SS, like that was the like Evo version of it, like the super high trim level. The normal Super 360 had 14 horsepower.
Well, you're talking about like an 11 or 1,200 pound car. 16 horsepower is genuinely enough. There's no roads.
It's an 800-pound car.
That's it?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It had 3 seats in it, and it was made mostly of fiberglass. But very rad car. 4-speed manual, 2-speed automatic. Those were your options.
Was it air cooled or liquid cooled?
It was air cooled.
So that's something I don't see a lot in the early days of 4-stroke engines. I mean, Porsche and Volkswagen really ran with it.
Air cooled V-twin right there.
I see that. I see the shroud.
Very cool sounding car.
You don't see a lot of liquid cooled 2-strokes. Like, can you think of a liquid cooled 2-stroke gas engine? Because the Detroit diesel 2-strokes were obviously liquid cooled, but I'm really struggling now to think of like a large enough form factor. That's a liquid cooled engine?
This is the
V4. Didn't the Moscovich have a V4 engine?
I think it was a 3. It was a 3-cylinder.
What was the in the James Bond movie, that blue car?
Which James Bond movie?
Goldeneye?
Oh remember. Yeah, the Goldeneye. That was a Zastava.
Zastava. That's what I'm thinking of.
That was air cooled.
Okay.
Yeah, it was air cooled. So
the Moscovich I can't place right now, but
the Moscovich, it looks like a Lada, but it's got like a little bit of like a rounder face with square headlights.
Okay.
It was.
So it's more modern than I'm thinking of.
It's like 70s, 80s-ish. Okay. I'll show you what a Moscovich.
So anyway, I remember in like 1999, my grandfather got a 4-stroke weed whacker, and we were all just so confused as kids as to what that meant. That's a Moscovich 412. Oh yeah, I gotcha.
Good looking car.
That makes sense. It is
a good looking car.
And it has a grill for a radiator.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking it's got to just be complexity and then the industry that you're in. So obviously, like a weed whacker isn't going to have emissions requirements the same way a car will.
Well, also another thing, the whole point of like having the 2-stroke is for lightweight.
Yeah.
So having a giant filling the engine full of water makes it not lightweight.
Well, you don't need liquid cooling though. I mean, that was an air-cooled 4-stroke single-cylinder engine, and it was heavier, but I think it was just cost keeping it, from really expanding into other markets. Plus, you had to deal with things like oil changes, which you never had to deal with in a regular 2-stroke.
I know with like cars like the Moscovich, they went with the 2-stroke out of simplicity for design, so I could just push them out through the factory even faster. It had absolutely nothing to do with anything other than that. So,
in a communist country, I can definitely understand just that it needs to be simplistic, it needs to work, and let's be honest, 2-strokes are pretty reliable because they burn so much oil.
And if you break them, like they're pretty easy to fix,
which is different than a rotary.
Yeah, and it's like break a rotary, and you're like, you need to know how to work a rotary. So let's talk about that because it's actually not a 2-stroke or a 4-stroke.
I was going to say, we've done a 2, we've done a 4, so now let's do a 3.
Yeah, that's a rotary. So the rotary, there's something else. So basically how they work is you have this little like spinning triangle thing, looks like a Dorito.
It does.
And the air comes in on one side, it's a little bit more oblong with a little bit more space. It compresses itself along, I believe the bottom is where it compresses itself. It comes along to the other side, and there's two spark plugs, or if it's an SU, probably 1. There's a spark plug that causes spark and spins it over again. But what you get is basically effectively what you can call a 2-cylinder engine. But since each of the cylinders have 3 combustion chain faces on them, it's more like a 6-cylinder. So
And the power reflects that too.
yes, and that's why you see like RX-7s, they have like 280 horsepower out of a 1.3 liter when like you go, oh, this is actually a 3.9 liter.
Exactly. I mean,
oh,
how,
this makes sense now.
how you measure the displacements, just it's not compatible.
Yeah, and so that's actually why they got banned from motorsport, and that's why nobody builds them anymore. Is because like it doesn't make sense anymore. But yeah, like they won Le Mans 24 Hours in 1991, and with the single greatest sounding engine I've ever heard in my life.
The 787B.
Yes,
That is.
and if you see the 787B with the charge speed livery, that's not the actual one. That's a 787A, if I'm not mistaken.
The green and orange one is the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that's the charge speed. So that one that Mazda brings out, it's not the A. What is it? It's a 757.
It's a 767 is
No,
the
it's
one.
not. It's a 757. I think it's the one because what they do is the actual charge speed car is in a vault.
Mm.
There's another RX-7, an IMSA car that they bring out at the same time, and that has the 787B engine.
Oh, interesting.
So you'll hear the 787B whenever you're at like Monterey Car Week, and it sounds unbelievable. But then usually a lap or two behind it, you see this Mazda RX-7, and you go, why does that sound so much better? And it's literally the differences. I think like the 767.
That's the one that was at the Hawk in 2014. They brought out a 767.
So that one is a 2-liter.
Okay.
I think it's a 2-liter 4-rotor.
It is a 4-rotor.
Yeah, so it's a 2-liter though, but the 2.6-liter is the one that's in the FCRX-7 IMSA car,
Oh my God.
and it is absolutely unbelievable. Like you've heard F1, but you've never heard anything like this. The only engine I could ever say is on par with it is I think it's like the BSR, like 1.5 liter V16 supercharged.
One of those super early Formula.
Yeah,
engines.
from like the 1950s. Like that's the only engine that sounds similar. It's unbelievable sounding. I can't say enough good things about it.
You just need all those combustion events
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
and a lot of engine RPM.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah, I woke up outside of turn 3 at Road America to a 767 lapping, and it was like the best thing. I'm like, I can just die happy right now. So anyway, the rotary on paper seems like it's such a simple, easy to work on thing, but you really have to know what you're doing when you work on one. Everything from, I mean, with carburetors, it's pretty simple.
The rotary has sent many a company out of business because
Yep.
a lot of people just went in going, this is simple. If you don't look at it, if you look at it as like, this is just as complex as any other gas engine, you're going to get a lot more out of it other than going, oh, this is simple. I got this. If you go into it saying, this is simple, I got this, you're going to blow it up when you design it.
Yeah, you need to treat it with some respect because it really is not what meets the eye.
Yeah, you don't want to end up like NSU or Chevrolet or Mercedes.
Well, I mean, you look
or
at
anybody
it,
else that had a failed engine that they made for it.
It's like an oval combustion or crankcase, and you've got this triangle in the middle. I'm like, oh, how hard could it be?
Mm-hmm.
But like how you calibrate that, because it's a gear-driven rotor.
Yeah.
Like the actual crankshaft, it's an offset split pin
Yeah.
with
It's got an eccentric
teeth cut
tube in
into
the
it. Yeah,
center,
and that's what actually spins and perfectly seals the rotor against the chamber. And the chambers have special coating. The apex seals are chromium copper. I had to look that up because I wasn't actually sure what they were.
I can't remember. I don't think that's true for all of them because I know that a lot of engines have had like horrible apex seal problems.
I was specifically looking at the FD Turbo because I was
Okay.
curious what they did to make them survive. So it's a chromium coated copper seal, which makes sense because you get the really hard chrome, but you get the soft underbelly of copper. So if you smash it into something, it's got some give and it won't break the case.
Exactly.
But I mean, talk about lightweight, compact, and power dense. I think the rotary shares way more in common with the two-stroke.
Yeah, it does. Especially like as far as cool sounds go. Like if you want like the lamest sounding engine, you get a 4-cylinder 4-stroke.
Or a hot, wet V8.
Yeah, well, not hot wet V8. If you get wet enough, it sounds cool.
Well, yeah, flathead is cool.
Yeah, but if you're talking like an LT1 in a pickup truck, it's just beyond boring.
Or like that Mustang.
Yeah, exactly. Like just nobody cares. But like, there's so many other like cooler sounding engines. Like when you start thinking about it, you're like, oh yeah, the Detroit Diesel like 2-stroke sounds awesome. And you get like any rotary or stuff like that, it sounds really cool.
I gotcha. But I mean, the two-stroke burns oil on purpose. The rotary burns oil on purpose, not only for cooling, but to keep the seals intact. So I'm surprised that we got rotaries that lasted as long as they did and two-strokes that died as soon as they did in the automotive application, just because they are so similar in the drawbacks.
Sorry, I'm taking pictures.
That's just
Jan
fine.
can see where we are.
That's all good. Just tell her we're by Lulu's. So that's the three-stroke. I want to touch on a couple other variants, and these are mainly variations on the four-stroke, and it's Atkinson and Miller. So I want to start with the Miller cycle, which was in the Mazda Millennia and a couple other Mazdas, but really not that much else. And all this did to modify the four-stroke engine was essentially a cam profile change to leave the intake valves open for part of the combustion cycle. And how they were able to do that and still maintain compression was the mandatory use of a supercharger or a turbocharger.
Let me tell you about that was the Miller cycle, I thought. That's Miller.
Miller.
All right.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to Atkinson
I
yet.
want to talk about the worst driving experience I've ever experienced.
Was it a Mazda Millennia?
Yes.
Ah.
How do you take a 2.5 liter V6 and
With a supercharger.
with a supercharger and you make it boring? Oh, it's simple. You just make the Japanese Buick that is the Mazda Millennia. I was actually thinking about building a slab and using a Millennia as the platform. Because I'm like, it's the same thing.
Can you still get like a clean Millennia?
Yeah, this check engine light will be on, guaranteed.
Who cares?
Like, there's no question that it will be on.
Oh, that's the parade. That's what it is. I'm like, what the hell is going on over there?
This whole timing thing they've got going on here is not really ideal.
I agree.
Oh, my God.
So there's no physical change you actually have to do to the bottom end of a four-stroke to get the Miller cycle. So in theory, a company could sell you a set of camshafts for a Millennia and fix it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the same thing with Atkinson, but instead of modifying the compression stroke, they leave the exhaust valves open, or sorry, they close them and they elongate the exhaust stroke. That's what it is. Pardon everyone. Jana's on her way in, but she's trying to get past all of the parade traffic. So anyway, the Miller cycle modifies the induction and compression cycle to try to get a little bit more efficiency by not putting as much load on the connecting rod as you're compressing the air-fuel mixture. But the Atkinson cycle that's in the Prius and the Echo and stuff like that, that is designed to do kind of the same thing on the exhaust stroke to reduce the stresses in that event. Oh my God, guys, I'm sorry, but talking over these sirens, it's hard to keep my train of thought. All right, next up, hydrogen and CNG as fuels. You'll see a lot of, forklifts for one will run on propane or CNG, which is a pressurized vessel fuel system, a special carburetor, which is actually a sealed, it's almost like a boost reference carburetor, where everything's contained within to let it atomize fuel. Typically, if you have it in a delivery gas V8 or something like that, in a newspaper delivery van, there will be a standalone fuel system for the propane or CNG, and then you'll have a regular fuel injector, rail, pump, and tank as well. The reason why they do that is if you get caught in a rural area where there isn't a pressurized filling station for CNG or propane, you do need to be able to run on regular old fuels. So you won't see a lot of vehicles outside of forklifts or something that spends its life exclusively off-road in a warehouse or something like that that has a pressurized fuel system only. And then there's also using it as a power adder. Diesel engines benefit a lot from having propane injected into the air-fuel mixture. And what that does is it allows the diesel to atomize more efficiently, especially in the older, like two-stroke Detroits, where injecting propane will actually allow the roughly 75% fuel burn to extend to the 100% that you can, get to get the caloric benefit out of the fuel, turn it into, linear motion, and then convert that to rotary motion. Those are really the biggest ways of turning liquid fuel into mechanical force. That's kind of it. So 2, 3, 4 stroke, and then just power adders. We're not going to talk about nitrous or anything like that, but that's kind of the gist of it.
I apologize.
That's just fine. I just got through the end of that. So.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, we have this parade, literal parade that's going by, because why would they schedule us at the same time as Parade, but whatever.
I think we're just gonna not do this next year.
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
And then since Jana's on her way, I'll just quickly follow up with the next topic I have, and then we'll let her finish out the episode.
So you mentioned
I covered
CNG
Atkinson.
and everything.
I did, yep.
Okay. So
As well as propane injection.
Dope. And then, so, yeah, the Miller...
It was a great monologue.
Motorcycle was just... What?
It was a great monologue.
That's good. Thank you for monologuing while I was taking care of that.
It's all good.
But, yeah, so Mazda, they always play with all these weird, different technologies. Because, like, now, their new 3 Series... the Mazda 3...
Is that still Sky Active?
Yeah, Sky... And they're, like, they're naming... I don't know what Sky
G.
Active means anymore. It means nothing.
Is that like Earth Dreams?
Yeah, it means absolutely nothing. I have no idea. Because, like, Sky Active, like, when they first announced it was going to be, like, they had an engine they were coming out with had, like, 15.5 to 1 compression.
Yeah, static compression and a gas engine.
Yeah, around, like, 87 octane.
Well, not only that, but their Sky Active D, when they announced it when the Mazda 6 was supposed to come here as a diesel, they said, oh, we've made it so clean that you don't need a DPF or urea injection.
Yeah, just totally wild.
That never happened.
Yeah, but... yeah, now they've just, like, they just, like, bring it in, like, they just, like, use the name for everything. It's like Infinity with Q.
Yeah.
It's just, like, means nothing now.
It's like stapling M badges on a BMW. It doesn't mean anything anymore.
It's like, now this is meaningless.
But you have a good point. Mazda, we've referenced them so many times in these
They've
weird
done
engine
every
technologies.
single one from the start.
This is just throwing a whole bunch of darts as a handful at a board, and hopefully one sticks.
Well, going back to when they first started, their very first car was a 360cc not two-stroke engine. They're the first not two-stroke engine.
Right.
And now they're making a 15 to 1 compression normal engine, and then they made the rotary. Yeah. Like,
and they do the Miller cycle supercharged sedan, and they did all these tiny V6s.
Miller and Atkinson cycle are both them.
What did they do that was Atkinson?
Can't remember.
I always think of the Prius and the Echo.
I'm pretty sure they did Atkinson cycle.
You're probably right. I mean, it's a much more common cycle than the Miller cycle.
If there is a weird engine design that exists, I can almost guarantee it's Mazda are the progenitors of it, because they're the only company that's done this.
And even if it's not, just say that it is, and it'll be fine.
Yeah,
Mazda will accept it.
Another thing that's also like really interesting about them is like they've somehow managed to do this every time, and they've made so many gambles and not gone out of business.
Yeah, you do one mistake like that as another company, and you're out of business. And Mazda somehow has weathered the storm every time.
They've weathered the storm every time. Like, they haven't been owned by themselves, but they are currently. But like they bought themselves out from Ford.
Right.
But like even when like they were bought out by Ford, it wasn't like Ford saying, "Yeah, we're gonna take you over." It was Ford being like, "Hey, we need you to make engines for us, please."
Right.
Help.
And honestly, that joint venture was, I think, okay. I mean, that was kind of like other than the power shift.
They made the worst Mazda products ever during that time. Because we got the pre-Ford 626 and the Ford 626. It went from being a really great front-wheel drive mid-size sedan to being possibly one of the most boring cars I've ever seen in my life.
They did get a lot less interesting.
Yeah, they did. But at the same time, like, they also... Another thing Mazda does is they always play with, like, weird displacements. Like, really weird displacements.
Like 2.1 liters.
Like a 1.6 liter or a 1.8 liter V6.
Yep.
Or like a 2.4 liter dual cam truck engine in the 80s. Which not only was in Tucker's old truck, but also is in the Kia Sportage, which makes that suddenly a very desirable vehicle.
They put a 2.4 in the Sportage?
Something like that. Some dumb big displacement. Didn't make any power. It was just huge displacement.
I mean, I've seen the displacements that confuse me the most are just the 2.1s, the 2.9s. Like,
yeah, there's some things. So like like displacement. Like in America, I'm like, okay, I get that. Like you can just make whatever you feel like. But with Mazda, it's like you are literally in the country that made taxation based off of displacement like a thing. And then you just play with that so much and just make like weird displacements. Like the 1.3 liter, they could have easily made that 1.5.
Yeah, but they didn't.
Yeah, they did. Like, they've always just done weird things like that.
Why isn't that 1.5? Well, we didn't design it like that.
No, you didn't design it to be this. It's like, well, why is it not? Well, because it revs higher this way. okay. Like any other brand would have just been like, hey, let's just add the extra like 2 cc's of displacement to just bump it over.
And that's actually kind of an endearing quality of Mazda, because you look at it more recently with the ND.
Yeah.
The rest of the world got that cool high revving 1.5.
Yeah.
We got like a Mazda 3 engine with a different head on it.
Yeah.
That didn't rev.
But I mean, like, that's the thing is like they tried doing that like with the rest of the world. They do everything they can to like keep themselves interesting. That's why if you get like even a Mazda CX-5, it's still a fun vehicle to drive because
other than the fact that they rust, they're really good. They're fun to drive. They look pretty good.
The rust is insane. My mom's Mazda 2's already rusting. It's really bad. But the rust is just unbelievable. But
I love how they still haven't figured that out, like 30, 40 years later.
I think they know what they need to do. They're just actively choosing not to at this point. Because they're like, hey, listen, you're not buying this for it to last forever. You're buying this because you like to drive it. So
that's true.
Like, and we could make it perfect, but then it'll be twice as expensive or heavier.
And they keep selling you cars because they don't last forever.
Yeah, they don't. Oh, and it's very frustrating because my van, like everything, they all rust so bad, like more than any other car I've ever seen in my life.
But your van, I think, is holding up really, really well.
It is, yeah. So. But also, yeah, speaking of weird Mazdas, just playing with weird stuff, like let's make a tiny 4-cylinder minivan and give it a manual transmission and then hope it sells. It's like when you're playing automation and and you're just like, you're like, one goal is, okay, I'm going to play campaign mode. I'm never going to make an automatic transmission. It's like, okay.
So how do we sell a people mover with a manual?
Yeah, you make very long gear ratios so they don't have to do it as much.
That's still one of like the most interesting vehicles of like the 2000s.
Yeah, it's my van. Yeah, it's just really weird, and of course it's Mazda. And I think like when you think of like also like they're just the kings of like forgotten cars, because they also did the Mazda CX or the MX-3, which is the 1.8. Cannot find one of those for the life of me anywhere in the world.
No, we found one on a podcast listed for sale. Like we found one in the country.
Yeah, I found one, but I can't find like a cheap one or something.
No, and this one didn't even run. It was like sitting in a field.
Yeah, like this is like you can find them like from like once in a while. They're impossible to find.
I feel like those got bad enough gas mileage where they probably qualified for cash for clunkers or something.
I think they all got clunkered. Yeah, I really think they all got clunkered, which like totally bums me out.
I'm sure it wasn't a great car, but that engine is so cool.
I feel like they were because they always got like really good reviews.
Were they just expensive? Why didn't they sell?
They were in between the CRX and the Volkswagen. Because the Volkswagen Corrado accelerated faster.
Okay.
But the CRX outhandled it. And so it just gets you middle child syndrome.
Okay. That makes some sense.
And it's like, I've always been like head over heels for cars that have middle child syndrome because like,
well, they're the weird ones.
They're always weird and they're always great. Like
it's not stuff that we walk up to at car shows.
They're cars I call stinky. Like they're stinky nuggets cars. Like they're just like the middle child. Like, oh, you didn't get the 446 pack. You got like or you didn't get the Hemi. You got the 446 pack. Like that's a stinky child syndrome where it's like it's not the really cool one, but it's still really good. Or like. For instance, like these like weird Mazdas and stuff. Like you could literally make an entire car collection just of forgotten weird Mazdas that are totally amazing to drive.
And you couldn't say that about most marques, actually. Come to think of it.
No, like you totally can't. Cause like if you think of like try to like go with like weird BMWs.
Yeah, there's a few, but like they're not endearing.
You got like the 330 ZHP, the E46 ZHP. Like that's one. And then you have like
the 1M. I mean, it's just the cars that kind of came out of left field.
The 1M. But I mean, even the 1M would be more like that's more like one that's like actually legitimately good. Like people know it's good. But like the 540 with a manual.
I would say like in Europe they got the 318 Ti. They did a 6-cylinder factory one, the 323 Ti.
Yeah, see,
that's an
that would be
car.
really cool. Yeah. So but Mazda whereas like BMW, you have to like try to find something that's like that.
There are a few, but there's not a ton, and the ones that are there are not endearing.
Whereas, like, there's this bird that keeps yelling.
Yeah.
But, like, if you, when you have when you just get, like, a Mazda, it's like, you take a shot at any car, and you're going to find some weird, interesting variant.
And you can go back to their almost entire history, too. It's not just one ethos or era.
Yeah, it's not like you have, like, an engineer that's like
Right.
been really interesting. Like
It's not a Lee Iacocca
no,
Chrysler. It's
it's
a Mazda.
It's like this is like the DNA of the company. Is the company makes like forever very very cool things. It's like I think to like a lesser extent Toyota could be said to do that,
But they've had eras.
yeah, they've had their eras. And like with their like when they're like in their like not doing great, they still make pretty cool things. But like
I'm just thinking of like the first gen Venza era. It's just when they weren't making anything interesting.
yeah, and like the Venza's like I have no idea why it does have the weirdest cult following. Like I don't get it.
It's like the cross cab.
It's just really weird. But like and it's like the same market as the cross cab too, actually. It's like old ladies that just like
You go to every cross cabriolet
Like-
owner's house, in the garage there will be next to it a Venza.
yeah, and it's like the owner's like always some like old lady. It's like this is their hill that will die on. Is that this is the greatest vehicle of all
Correct.
time, and they'll own like dozens of them. But yeah, like so Toyota's like they're like to a lesser extent like Mazda, whereas like Mazda like you can count on it. Like Toyota, it's like you can kind of half expect. If I tell you like there's a cool RAV4, you go, I could see it.
Yeah, it's the early 90s RAV4 EV.
Yeah,
Or the V6.
the
It was
convertible
both
first gen RAV4, or yeah, like
Yeah.
there's like a bunch
The
of
two-door, 5-speed convertible
it's like,
RAV4.
you know that there's like some, but like whereas like Mazda, if I say there's a cool version of a Mazda 5, you go, okay. Like you know it. Like,
Yeah, I already knew about
Mazda, you're like, yeah, it's a Mazda. There's probably be some weirdo version that's got a supercharged V6 or something, or some
I
dumb
wish.
thing on
God,
it.
that'd be super cool.
Yeah, there's always like some dumb weird thing on them, but like, yeah, like I would say like Toyota's another brand where you could probably make a solid car collection out of just their weirdo cars.
Well, they've made so many, it makes it a lot easier.
They really have. And when you do it, like you also have like the entire history of Toyota where they're just like doing like always really weird things that are just it just never ends. That like
They've had but they've had eras where they haven't done anything weird.
true, but I mean like they'll have an era like that, but whereas like even within that era, there's still some cool things. It's not you can't count on like Mazda, but if I said you need to make a car collection out of the entire history of this company, and it has to be something legitimately cool. In
Sure,
each decade,
you could do
like,
it, but
could
you
do
wouldn't have a car from one decade from Toyota.
You could. Like it'd just be like a lot less cool. Like you'd have like a Toyota Corolla XRS. It's like fine.
Right, but it's going to be the 2.4 liter version. That's meaningless.
Yeah. Oh, that's what you mean. Like the
That
late
era.
2000s. Oh god.
07 to
Yeah. Even
whenever
the Sienna
GR
sucked
came
then.
out. Yeah. So just we're going to.
Yeah, you're right. You're right on that. Okay, I'm gonna drop that one.
No worries.
You looks like you have one more
I do.
topic here, and
I'm
then
gonna do this,
I'm gonna let
and
you do
then-
your 3 topics, and then
If
Jana
Jana shows
should
up
be
in
here
time,
shortly.
great. If not, we'll just do it on the next episode. But I'm not even going to ask. I know you're aware of this. The pipeline ransomware attack that like shut off gasoline for Texas, and the hilarity that's been ensuing.
It's not just Texas.
Oh, I know.
It's
but
all the South. It's like
I know. Louisiana and all this.
yeah.
It's that whole area of the
So
country.
Janice from Michelle, that's with her, is actually from North Carolina or South Carolina. One of the Carolinas. I don't know. She's from the Carolinas.
Are you saying that
the one
all the
that-
Carolinas are the same, Ryan?
Yeah, they are. Like the Wilmington one. Which one is that?
Isn't that Delaware?
No, not Wilmington. Maybe it's not Wilmington. Raleigh. Where's Raleigh?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. She's from North Carolina. But yeah, and she was like, she arrived yesterday. She calls her boyfriend. She's like, "Hey, were you able to get gas yet?" He's like, "I'm still in line."
I don't know how it's that regionally bad, but I'm like, again, it's like the TP. If you want a shortage, the worst thing you can do is just go senselessly go buy a ton of something. And that's bad enough, but we're not talking about approved containers being
No,
filled
they're
up in
like
reasonable
garbage
quantities.
bags.
I've literally seen like Walmart plastic shopping bags to the point where there was an official tweet from some federal regulatory
The Consumer Product Safety Bureau.
saying not to put gasoline in
Yes.
plastic bags.
Yeah.
I've seen Rubbermaid totes. I've seen 5-gallon Home Depot buckets.
Did you Have you ever seen the episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where they try to go light somebody's car on fire, so they just get a 55-gallon like Rubbermaid like garbage can and they fill it full of gasoline?
No.
And they decide not to because they find out it's like a felony or something. And so they try to return it. They're like, "Hi, we'd like to return some gas."
I saw that thumbnail.
That's what it's from, and it's literally. It was hilarious because there's a picture of a guy with a truck full of those. Like the exact container from It's Always Sunny.
Oh my god.
And they were like,
That made my face hurt.
Like 2 weeks later. Oh, by the way, the pipeline's back up and running again.
Yeah, I know. They paid the $5 million ransomware attack to get it back up, but like.
Yeah, so like, it's up and running again.
Now
so
all these people are going to have ethanol-laden gas that doesn't keep very well in non-certified containers. Like the amount of vehicles that have already burned to the ground.
So you know how like in 2019 it was like flood cars that you're really worried about.
Yeah.
2020 is like you had like the pandemic and everything. It's like 20.
It's a gasoline prohibition car.
Like 2022 is gonna be like you always have to like look for some weird thing like based off the year. Like 2022 is the year like if the car's from the southeast, you have to pull up the trunk carpeting and make sure there's a trunk floor didn't all rust away from when their bag of gasoline exploded.
No, it's just going to be super clean.
Because
remember, it's a solvent.
Just be so clean. There's be no paint or anything left.
Oh my god! But I'm just like, you see this, and it's one of those dystopian things. Like, is this actually happening in a part of the country?
I watched one TikTok where it was a TikTok of a lady that was filling up a garbage bag, and the garbage bag began leaking while she was filling it. So she goes in her car and gets another garbage bag to put the now dissolving garbage bag into the previous garbage bag.
I saw somebody trying to fill a laundry hamper, like a bucket with holes in it.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Yeah. One of the it looks like
physics.
a garbage. Yeah, I know. They were trying to fill it up, and it was
That's
just
not
coming
at
out.
all how physics works.
It was at a Kroger, so you know it was Texas.
Oh, yeah. People in the South are dumb.
I hate to say it, but bless their hearts. And perfect timing with Jana coming, so we get to talk about the Accord before we can for 217.
We had an Accord, I think about last time we were recording, I was actually saying how much I love that car.
You actually drove the car to our late night recording, and
because I was too tired. And I'm like, it's just
Welcome,
a perfect
Jana.
vehicle. And Jana's here, and she gets to tell us.
Friends.
She gets to tell us all about the Accord. Here, why don't you get closer to this mic?
Yeah.
I will rotate it towards you.
Thank you. First things first, they had me park on the opposite side, and the only way I got here was running into Dan Balto, being like, "Do you know where Eric and Ryan are?" And he was like, "The last
Over
I saw
there."
them, he's over there."
Well, welcome. We're glad you made it.
Thank you.
So,
So I'm talking about my Teacher Appreciation Week gift. Present. All right. Oh, I'm sweaty. Okay.
would you like some echo?
No.
No, we don't need any echo. I'm going to turn up that mic just a little bit. So
Okay. So do I just launch into what happened?
Talk towards the light bulb.
Oh, I don't know what's going on here. So do I just launch right in?
sure.
Yeah, why don't you just tell us?
So we know about the Accord.
Okay,
We
so
prefaced
this-
it last time we recorded.
Yeah. I haven't been with you for months, so but what was it? 2 weeks ago now was Teacher Appreciation Week, and I kicked off Teacher Appreciation Week Saturday night. The Accord got stolen while we were at Cars and Crafts.
Cars parked in front of our house.
Yeah.
Had video of it.
Got video of it, and we're like, what did we expect having a Honda Accord?
Yeah, but this isn't like a B series, like super clean manual Honda. This is an automatic CD Accord,
Yes.
95 Accord coupe.
a 95 Accord coupe.
Also a coupe, so none of the body panels fit anything.
Unfortunately, the microphone can't hear you, so I'll have to relay that.
But yeah, so it gets stolen. We're like, okay, stressful, but whatever. We'll find it. Monday morning, they found it.
What day was it stolen?
Saturday night.
Okay.
Found it Monday morning at 3 a.m. And they found it behind a bar, and all that was taken off of it was the radio, the catalytic converter, and
CD changer.
my CD changer in the back.
Cadillac converter.
My Cadillac
Who
converter.
steals a CD changer in 2021?
I was so bummed because that was like the one thing I said. I was like, I'm not gonna be upset unless
That's true. That is a good Radwood
my
material.
CD changer is taken. And Ryan's like, so CD changer was taken, and I was like, the only thing I really cared about in that
Did
car.
you have discs in it?
No.
Oh, so you're fine.
So it was fine. It was fine. It was just upsetting. But I was like, whatever, because they fixed my hood latch. So I was like, trade off. You take the radio that I don't want.
That is my kind of crime right there.
Fix my hood latch. We're good. I don't care. I was gonna replace those parts anyway. Order the new parts. We're waiting for them to come in. And Thursday night, we were talking about Fiddler on the Roof. And
As one does.
we hear like popping, and we're like, what is it? And then we go, oh shit. We run outside, and somebody is in the Accord that isn't us. And Ryan goes pounding on the window. The guy flips him off. Ryan runs into the house, grabs his bayonet, chases the car onto University.
This is just as good as the Batman story for Ryan. The audience said, did he reach for his taser?
Yeah, lost for the taser. But yeah, chases him onto University. But we're like, you know what? We messed around with the engine enough that if he tries to go any farther, it's going to blow up. We'll find it.
Yeah, the firing order had been completely changed around. The engine computer fuse had been pulled.
So the engine computer fuse actually controls fuel delivery and also controls shift points for the automatic transmission.
Okay.
So it would only go into first and second gear. It was not going to go on the highway at all. So, and it's like backfire. It sounds like a cannon.
Cool, it doesn't have a cat on it, so yeah, straight
Yeah,
exhaust.
And it's like 2 cylinders at a time firing into the exhaust.
And it was 8:30 at night. The sun was still out.
And yeah, you've got video of this too.
Yeah. So the police officer comes, and I was like, my car was stolen again. And he goes, again? And I go, yeah, I just got it back Monday morning. And they're like, was it parked here the whole time? And I go, yeah, it didn't have an exhaust. I couldn't really drive it. And I had to go in early on Friday, and I was on my way to work, and I get a call from Ryan, and he goes, I found the car. And I go, what? He goes, I found the car. You're not going to be happy. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I'm in the middle of circle time. We're singing our calendar songs. We're on the unfortunate song for October about Christopher Columbus.
Oh no. Happy National Genocide Day.
Yeah. Yeah, they're gotta tell them about the blanket someday. But my phone goes off like crazy, and I'm like, oh God, I gotta check it. I look down, and I see a picture of my Accord half painted, spray painted black, and I just start crying.
The car is burgundy for the record.
Yeah. So now it wasn't the right color, and I'm like rubbing the tears from my eyes, and one of my students goes, Jana, quit touching your eyes. You're gonna get pink eye. And
The kid has got the real priorities
straight, and I go,
He's got the right priorities to get punted into it.
I was like,
Kick that kid out the window.
you're right, girl. I'll stop touching my eyes. I'm sorry. I'm a little sad right now. Somebody spray painted bad words on my car. And
Which we can't recite for you right now because we're in a public venue.
yeah, it was an explicit and 12 on my hood, which is
But not the Ferrari F12.
no,
Bad kind of
no,
F12.
not the Ferrari F12. And it was. I'm surprised they didn't park it in front of the police station 2 blocks away. But you know, great spray painting F12 on a preschool teacher's
You can't park
car.
in front of a police station?
No, Hamlin's blocked off. But
Oh, is that the one with the barricades all
Yeah.
around it? Oh my God.
Here, actually, 1 second. I do have something I want to add to this story because when I called the police, when I discovered it to go get cat food for my cat,
Oh, Lucy, what a good
Yes.
boy.
I found the car, called the police arrive, and I'm like, yeah, I found my car. And then, how do you know it's yours? I'm like, it has the rust where the rust is. It's my car. There's only so many Accord coupes that have been stolen and are rusty in the correct location.
And it had our license plate.
Yeah, I'm like, it has my license plate. It's my car. Anyway, so I get there, and the police officer is like the officer from The Big Lebowski when the dude's car gets stolen.
Oh, no.
And I'm like...
Did they save the credence?
But, no, he saved a Magic card, but he took the 2 N64 games that are out of it.
So this is what he left.
But hang on one second. The cop sees the F12 and goes, did you write that there? I'm like, if I wrote that there, why would I be calling you?
ACAB,
yeah. Why would I write ACAB on my hood and then call the police? Like, no, of course I didn't do that.
So I think he did it because I was on the phone with the cops when he stole the car. And I was like, they're stealing my car again. And the operator's like, again? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't remember the license plate, but the case is just getting cleared. Like, hasn't even cleared yet. Like, you can pull up the information. But yeah, so Friday night I get off work and I go to its new secret location. I dump a bottle of nail polish on my hood and scrub off the explicative because I'm like, I'm not driving with that around on my car.
I should have just got more cheap black spray paint and just finished it off.
We thought about it, but I had a bottle of nail polish in my hand, so it was like...
Polish or polish remover?
Polish remover.
I'm guessing they didn't do any prep work, so you might be able to just get away with acetone.
Yeah, it worked. It worked perfectly fine because they spray painted it in the rain, which is great for the spray paint to cure. And I was like, all right, I'm going to see what they left. And we had bought this car from a friend, so it had a bunch of like our friend's stuff in it still that we just hadn't gone through because it was a winter beater. We were just like, we'll go through it later. Literally every...
It was trash. It wasn't like anything important.
Yeah. Literally the only thing left was a spool of ribbon, a nail clipper, and a magic card.
Yeah, which magic card?
It was a magic card worth 90 cents. So...
I can't remember what card it is, but it was a card that gave all red cards +1 attack if it was activated at the same time as their attack roll. But yeah, it was a very whatever card.
So it wasn't a foiled Charizard.
No,
then.
I don't like that Ryan can take my mic away from me. It was not a foiled Charizard. I'm really glad, though, because I do have very valuable Pokemon cards that I keep in the Fiat, no longer keep in the Fiat. Because I kept them
Fiat's safe.
the glove compartment, and now I'm like, oh,
Well, I
no,
mean,
because those are worth...
Technically, you shouldn't keep anything of value in your car at any time.
No, I've learned my lesson. I didn't even keep anything of value in it, but I'm glad that I didn't forget my Pokemon cards in there because I have a very, very sought-after Pikachu.
See, at least when my car was stolen, I got a whole bunch of additional stuff in it when I got it back. It was like worth the impound fee. At least you guys didn't have to pay impound fees.
No, we didn't have to pay impound
That's super
fees,
nice.
which was really nice, but it was hard crying at work and not being able to tell my students my car was stolen because they're like, why are you on your phone? You're going to get pink eye. And I'm like, I know, leave me alone.
The cop,
like,
the cops bring your car back. You're crying, touching your eyes. Oh, I can't touch your eye, ma'am. You're going to get pink eye.
yeah, you're going to get pink eye. So it's like hard because like the parents are like, why is she crying? And I couldn't tell them. And they're just like, my director didn't want us. Like, yeah,
just say it broke
like
down.
I was like, it's a stressful week. But yeah, on top of that, I was covering for 2 head teachers. So needless to say, great teacher appreciation week. I'm going to hibernate for the next month and a half.
Did you want to talk about what we're going to be doing with the Accord, or did you still want to think about what your plan is?
Well, this is the plan so far. Obviously, I cannot own this car. Unfortunately, that has been taken from me twice. So we're gonna buy it back, and we're gonna try our best to cover up the paint and sell it because a good car. We have all the replacement parts.
I was going to
for
say,
it.
Ryan said you have the header and the mid pipe at least on the way. So
Catalytic converter arrived as I came here today. I brought it into the house. So
very nice.
if Michelle wants to drive a car later, she can drive a half black Accord.
Yes, my friend.
That's the face of real temptation.
Yeah,
there.
so another reason why it was really important that we got the car back is my best friend from middle school flew out from North Carolina for her birthday, and we wanted like an extra car so she didn't have to deal with my dumpster of a van. She keeps asking me what that clicking noise is.
That's just the CVX. So
Yeah,
I'm sure
so I
it's
was like,
fine.
why couldn't they waited like 3 weeks? I would have been fine with it, but no.
No, having a car stolen from you is never actually fine, as it
No,
turns out.
it's not, but like at this point, it's happened so many times, I'm just accustomed to it.
I'm hoping to not get to time number 2 ever.
Yeah,
'Cause it's such a personal thing. You wouldn't
It
really
is.
think about it. Even like a dumpster beater. Like both of our $600 cars got stolen.
yeah, and like
What would be the perfect bait car, and what would you do?
perfect bait car is my Accord. So booby trap it. So like I guess there's laws.
Allegedly.
I mean, Mr. Lawyer man can tell us, but like it's technically illegal to booby trap your car. But you know what isn't illegal? Keeping glitter in your air vents.
Just never use your blower motor.
Yeah, I mean I don't use my blower motor anyway. I got a sunroof.
Another one I was thinking about, if I do get another Honda ever,
Which no.
yeah, well, I mean, I'll probably be doing this with the Civic. I may have a car alarm, instead of having the car alarm go to an alarm mounted in the engine bay, it's going to be a train horn under the seat. Because you can get train horns that are about 120 decibels, and they will fit under the seat.
You're gonna need an air compressor, but yeah, you can
No,
do
no,
it.
they're all electric.
Train horns aren't electric.
No, I found it. It's a train horn, quote unquote, style. It's made to go on semi trucks, but yeah, it makes a train horn sound at about 120 decibels, and it's all electric. And yes, those do fit under seats, and you can just plug it right into a car alarm. And instead of having to make a car alarm noise, it will make an extremely loud train horn noise in the car.
Good.
That's what you want.
Yeah, and I've had like several friends being like, "Yeah, let's use your car as a bait car," but I'm like, I'm emotionally exhausted from this experience. I rather.
Yeah, you can buy it and you can bait it in front of your
I'm
house.
like, had you come to me after the first time, I would have been like, sure, go for it. But just like, I mean, what I would tell my therapist if she wasn't ghosting me is,
Well, that's a great start.
yeah, the worst part for me is the person saw us as people, and I had like sticky notes from my friends reminding me of like my nail appointment on Saturday and my hair appointment on this day.
You know they have Google Calendar now, right?
They do, but I have ADHD, so sticky notes that I see all the time work way better than Google Calendar alerts that I just swipe past. But yeah, so I got like all these sticky notes and just like saw me frantically like running at like, what am I gonna do? I'm 5'1" and like 115 pounds, and I was like ready to run after this car. Like, I feel like if you see that and then vandalize it, it's just a huge like, I just do not care about people move.
Yeah, you're trying to apply logic to a situation and a person that isn't using it.
Yeah, but
That's
it was
a
just
fool's
like,
errand.
because he just broke literally everything you could. And after getting away so easy the first time and it happening again in the next week, and then that person just blatant disregard for what, like, and then ending up like, he must have given up if he wrote, you know, the explicits on the hood with like no intentions of,
And clearly he had one can of paint and he got
yeah.
a third of the way through the car and then really wanted to send it home. with
But
some
now
scripting.
we're really good friends with the drug dealers on either side of our house.
Yeah, actually, I'm not gonna lie. Like, if you ever like pro tip to like living in like a questionable neighborhood, is always be friends with the people that work on the corner because they know everything that's going on. So both the dudes, like from each direction of my house, like actually, I asked the dude, I'm like, hey, you were standing here all evening? He goes, yes, I was. I'm like, it doesn't matter what you're staying here for. Did you see this guy did this? Because yes, I did. I was wondering what he was doing. And I'm like, did you see what direction he came from? He goes, yeah, he came off of Snelling, and then he just walked away after a while. I'm like, okay. He's like, yeah, I thought he was going to go get some more spray paint. He just never came back. I'm like, oh, okay. Very, very nice guy. Yeah. He's got a W body Monte Carlo. Super
Of course
cool
he does.
Dude. Yeah, super cool dude. The other guy on the other side of the street, he isn't helping me. He didn't see my car, but he had
Get closer.
the other guy on the other side of the street. He had just had a cool Camaro, but yeah, it's always be nice to everybody you see in your neighborhood because they're going to be like your best asset if your car ever gets stolen because they'll be there to help. So,
I just use cameras.
well, I mean, cameras help, but I mean, like,
Also, giant decals all over the car.
Yeah.
But of course, we were trying to keep the car sort of nice looking, but.
I was on my way
How
to
dare
getting
you
decals.
insult the unicorn? How dare you, sir?
But yeah, so. Yeah, that's a good ending note.
Yeah.
On that bombshell.
Thanks, guys, for
Insulting the
listening.
unicorn.
Bye.